and all that skinny water down there is fishing those little holes when the tide drops out. That's the way to
Yes,
do it,
sir.
especially in the fall and the wintertime. That's a fun way of catching those fish.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you just got back from Costa Rica, and I was fascinated to hear that story. I was supposed to be down in Tamarindo. What was it, back in September, August or September, and had COVID and was bummed. I literally got a fever the night before we were supposed to leave.
Oh
That's
man.
right.
And yeah, and I was so ticked off. And
Well,
we
yeah,
had
it could have been worse. You could have got it while you were down there and had your 3 week vacation
eh,
down there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'd have been so bad.
That's true.
But had to cancel the last minute. Had multiple charters booked, and I'm gonna have to get with you at some point in time off the record to get some recommendations from you.
Oh, piece of cake.
Yeah, but other than Costa Rica, talk to me about some other destinations that you feel like are some of the top destinations for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to cover them all. Every season we've got the basic places we go. I'm actually going to some place I have not been. I don't hardly, to your point, when you said you thought I was just another one of the Florida guys, you hit on a point. I haven't filmed in Florida in 6 or 7 years because there's so many good guys down there. I mean, Carter's down there, George, and saltwater experience guys. I mean, they're all down in Florida. George Gotts, George Pavaramo, they film a lot in Florida. It's their backyard. They know it, So I don't go down to Florida to typically film because it gets covered a lot with the other shows, and it's where they live.
Right.
But I am going down to Key West the week after next because, believe it or not, this will put it in perspective. I'll be filming my 200th episode, and I was trying to think of what I could do to make it special. And when I started Big Water Adventures, it was a little different than it is now. You had to actually submit a pilot to Outdoor Channel, and of course, Outdoor Channel. I don't even think Sportsman's Channel. They were coming on, but they weren't even really big yet. And then, of course, now it's the Outdoor Sportsman's Group owns Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's Channel, and World Fishing Network. But back then, you had to submit a pilot with an idea, a business model of what you were going to do, and then you guarantee them what you're going to film 13 originals, and here's where you're going to film them. So I had to do all that stuff. I did the pilot episode in 2006 with Captain Rob Hammer in the Tortugas, and we actually went to the fort, stayed overnight, caught the red groupers and gags and muttons on the flats on top waters, and then went out and did the jigging and caught the big mackerel. So I'm going to go back down there a week and a half from now and film the 200th episode, and then we're going to kind of do flashbacks to 2006, when Big Water Adventures was just a pilot and a thought and a hope and a dream. So that's where I'm going next. And, of course, that fishery's still amazing. It's viable. Going to the Tortugas used to be, if you didn't stay overnight, I mean, there weren't a whole lot of boats that could do it. Now pretty much everybody can do it.
Right.
Now they're going to the Tortugas and past. And then I think after that, I actually am, I've got a couple of media events that I'm doing with some press guys. Then I really get into the Lake Erie media event the first week of May. Then I'm going to go to, that's when I really start getting busy. I'll be in Ocean Isle, North Carolina with Salt Fever Guide Service, I think the first part of June. Then I go to Mexican Gulf Fishing Company. We're going to film a couple there.
You're going to
Then
see
I go
Billy,
to
my buddy
Alaska.
Billy.
I'll be down. I think I'm on this one. It's kind of funny when I started with going all the way back to when Rimmer Covington had Mexican Gulf Fishing Company, and he became a spillionaire when he bought all the crew boats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And sold out to Beach and Billy.
Billy, yeah.
Billy's on this season. He finally, it was kind of funny because I used to film with Beach, and you know how those guys are, man. I mean, you know them when you know them, but you don't know them till you know them. And I spent probably 5-6 years down there before I became one of the guys, and now we're filming with pretty much all of them. I mean, I'm making the rounds with all the different, there's 8 or 9 of them, making all the different captains and doing episodes with them. So I'm actually filming with a couple of different guys in June. And then once I get done, we're going to do an inshore show and an offshore show. And once I get done with that, I go to Alaska, then ICAST, then Tropic Star in Panama. Then I'm going up to Noose River for the bulls on the popping corks, and then it's a couple more, and I forget where I go. I think I go to St. Simon's Island after that. But to answer your question, the only thing I really did when COVID hit was not go the places I couldn't go. I couldn't go to Australia again, couldn't go to Trinidad, couldn't go to Canada at the time. But I was the first week that Costa Rica opened back up. I was there the first week they opened in 2020. Same thing with Panama. Panama actually closed and opened twice. I made it a point. I made up my mind, and I made the decision in 2020 that no matter what, I couldn't give up on what I'd worked so hard to make and the dream that I had, and I couldn't just sit around and wait and see what was going to happen. I had to get out there, and every single time something would open, I mean, I literally, back to your point with Billy and Kevin Beach, got a phone call from them on a Monday, and they said, hey, man, they're going to let us open back up, and here's the restrictions, and we got to do this and this and this and this. How quick can you get down here? I said, how about Friday? And I stayed on the road. We still did 13 originals in 2020 and 2021 and managed to hit almost all the places I wanted to. But nonetheless, we kept it up and kept it running and made sure that the fans, that had to be sitting at home, were not suffering from not being able to see the shows because we were sitting at home.
Billy Freeman from Freeman Boatworks is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And, we've been friends for years. And Billy Freeman introduced me to Billy from Mexican Gulf and Beach. And we went down years ago for the first time. And with Billy, it was the first time I had ever daytime sword fished. And this had to have been 15 plus years ago. First time I had ever daytime swordfish. I'd caught multiple swordfish at night off South Carolina, at night, doing it the traditional way, and loved it. And we had spent a whole day fishing the rigs, catching big yellowfin, and I said, I'd like to catch a swordfish here if we get an opportunity tonight, later on tonight when it starts getting dark. He said, no, we're going to go do it right now. And I said, what? I mean, this was the first time I'd ever really sort of heard of such a crazy idea of catching a swordfish in the daytime. And we did get a bite, which we didn't catch the fish, but we got a bite, and it sort of inspired in me this thing, like, I need to look into this and research this. Is this a real thing? And then Nick Stanzik came online after that, who, by the way, Nick's coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks too.
Outstanding.
To talk about daytime sword fishing.
Yep, exactly.
But I mean, that was with Billy. It was the first time I had ever even experienced that idea, and sort of took his tactics and have run with them since. And Senator Campson, Chip Campson, who's a great friend of mine, is now using those same tactics that came from Billy. So I mean,
those guys have. If it swims in the Gulf of Mexico, those guys figure out a way to dial it up.
They know how to. Yeah, they know how to catch them. I just spent. You were telling me about some of the places that you had been, and I've always had sort of a desire to find these places that are untouched is not quite the right word, but not popular, but awesome at the same time, if that makes sense. Yeah. And we just came back from Belize, and I probably shouldn't even mention it on the podcast because then it won't be not popular anymore, maybe. But we just came back from Belize, and I tell you, that is an untapped fishery. Have you ever spent any time down there?
I have not been there. I know quite a few people that have. That's one of them that'll probably be on the list eventually as well. That is a phenomenal place. Ain't no doubt about it. Man, and it doesn't get, like, from my perspective, the main reason is, the one caveat to my show. And I'm gonna tell you, I've turned down some invites to some places that, the Maldives and Ascension.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But here's the problem. If I'm on a big private sport fisher and they're not willing to charter, I won't do the show. I mean, one of my best buddies, the one that hurts me the most is a good friend of mine. I don't know if you know Keith Poe out on the West Coast, sharktagger.com. If you don't know about him, you need to go see him because, everybody talks about O-search and tagging the sharks. No, Keith Poe goes out every day solo. He's tagged in the tens of thousands of adult great whites and makos. He's on Shark Week. He does all that stuff. I can make a phone call right now and go out and tag great white sharks with him on his boat, but you can't do it, so I won't do it. I won't do a Big Water Adventures episode anywhere for anything that you can't pick up the phone and do the exact same thing, and usually better than you saw me do on the show. And I think that's part of the issue with some of the places is because, from my perspective, it's not really an issue of, spending the money to go there or whether I want to, take a chance. It's that if we go down there to get Big Water Adventures and to get it shot and get the way we need to have it done, what you see is what you get at the end of the day. So what you catch doesn't really matter, is what you can film and the situation that you go into. So I have to be careful in, where I go to make sure that I'm with somebody or know somebody that is capable of not just catching fish, but actually getting a fishing show done and shot the way you need it to be.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point.
It's a huge difference.
I think that's a great point, because some of these very undeveloped places, the reason they're undeveloped is because it's hard to do business there, right? I mean, it's hard to do business, and a lot of people they don't have these big. They don't have a charter boat. You're fishing out of a panga for a marlin, and that's cool.
And even if a panga for a marlin's okay as long as you got the same guy, the same panga, and the same marlin.
Right.
Without, just like with you talking about show hosts, I won't name some destinations that if I go there, it'd be an amazing show. But if you picked up the phone, the guy that answered it, and put you in a different boat with someone else, they're running a puppy mill by and large, and they're trying to get as many people in and out of there as they can. And if you got a captain's license, they'll give you a boat. And,
I know where you're talking about right now. I actually have a friend who lives here, who moved here, who left his job, a successful business on Lake Murray, a striper business on Lake Murray. He closed it down, sold his boat, and moved to work for that company. And exactly what you're saying, and I'm not saying any. I mean, I'm not saying names, but I know exactly.
I was actually talking about out of the country, but I know which one you're talking about too.
Okay.
But it's at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I have to be able to tell people, because I get them all the time, and it becomes my biggest personal accountability is to the people that watch my show, and that's across the board, and that includes. I can't tell you how many thousands, and I mean it, of people. I mean, Tropic Star Lodge in Panama, probably 30% of their customers come off my show. Crocodile Bay, same thing. Alaska, same thing. That's a huge number of people. And what I almost always get is an email from somebody saying, hey, listen, just wanted to let you know, I saved every penny I had for 5 years to take my dream trip to Tropic Star Lodge or Crocodile Bay or Alaska or whatever. I specifically asked for the captain that you had. I specifically wanted to do the things you did. I wanted Big Water Adventures on my wall as a bucket list trip. And I, quite frankly, did better than you did. That's the perfect scenario for me. When we get into a hot marlin bite, man, I'm going to have the fish next to the boat. We're going to swim it. Pick a species. I'm going to slow everything down to get a Big Water Adventure show. If you're in yellowfin tuna throwing topwaters, I'm going to take 20 to 30 minutes on each yellowfin after I get it to the boat and in the boat, whereas you've got 2 more hooked up. So you're probably going to do better than I did if you're given the same situation. And that's where, I take it incredibly seriously that everywhere I go and everything I do, you legit, whether you've never been saltwater fishing a day in your life, or you're an experienced avid angler, you can pick up the phone, you can make a phone call, you can talk to the person I went with, you can do the things I did, and you can have that exact same experience, if not better, every time you go there, unless you get, a hurricane or a snowstorm or whatever. But that's where Big Water Adventures has got to be. What you see is what you get, to the point where you can pick up the phone and go do it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I I commend you for that, because so many shows out there want to show things that it doesn't take the viewer into. They're more on the entertainment side. They're more worried about entertaining, and you've kept it real, and you've also kept it to where, and you've stuck to your guns. You want it to be something that anybody can go do. I know your local businesses that you fish with here in South Carolina. They're all awesome. The guys in Little River or Ocean